Welcome to the Sovereign Free Life podcast with me, Maneka. And I have the honor to be here with Willow Shanks. She is from Western Australia, a really brave woman, I can say, who's gone through a lot and now completely living on her own terms. She has two kids, and during the lockdowns, she had to close down her whole business, and she knows what it's like to be pressured on different ways. And she knows how it is to also have an alternative to be able to build something up that then can support her and her family. So I'm so honored to have you here. I've seen you around our community, and you're just such a shining light of like hope and positivity, and yeah, just really giving so much of yourself to the community as well. So thank you for being on here. And I would just love to hear your story, like your background and how you came into this business. I know it's been ups and downs, and yeah, would love to just
Mm.
hear where you're coming from.
Thank you, Maneka, and thanks for having me. Yes, I would love to share. Hello, all listeners out there. Yes, so I mean, I started working digitally online in 2018, and it was never on my radar. I was someone that did not come from a background at all in anything to do with digital. My background was in the wellness industry. So I had, since I was 15, worked in the fitness industry. So it was always around diet, nutrition, mindset, and really having people grow into the best versions of themselves, both, in their mindset and in their body and their health and nutrition. So I had worked in the fitness industry since I was 15 years of age. And eventually over the years, by the time I was around 21, had moved into owning fitness industry businesses. And I had acquired them through really obscure ways in that I think I had been in the industry for a while. I had really learnt the art of like sales and marketing in the fitness industry. It was where I really found myself and my fullest self expression. So I loved that. I didn't come from a rich family background or anything like that at all. I just guess I happened to develop the right skill sets and be at the right time and place when other companies were closing down or people were looking for an exit strategy. And I happened to be someone that was able to say, hey, I'm here and I'm willing to take that on. So I was able to acquire like a fitness industry company that at the time was really losing a lot of money. It was really running very much at a loss. And I said, hey, I can turn this thing around. And they let me pick it up for a pretty penny, just a short amount, like a tiny amount of money, with the agreement that I would take on all of the debt. So I'm not sure what you would call that wherever you're listening, but there are different ways that you can acquire a company through purchasing or sometimes through taking over and agreeing to pay the debt of the previous owner and things like that. And when I was 21 and put in that kind of conversation, I really said to myself, what's the worst that could happen? Because everyone was like, oh, that's super risky. That's super risky. Do you know what you're doing? And I was like, well, I don't own any property. I don't have any children. And what's the worst that can happen? Would I go bankrupt? Like, I was like, would I make a really bad choice and not be able to fulfill on what I thought I could in a business sense? And if I did go bankrupt, what would that mean? And I thought, well, I'd be in and back out of that by the time I was 30. And I was like, screw it, let's jump on in and do it. It's like super ambitious. And, I think owning and starting and running your own business from 21, there were like some real peaks, right? There were some real peaks being a business owner, so young and being able to earn that type of money. And I remember sending my mum screenshots of my bank account. Oh, mum, look what it's gone up to this week. Look what it's gone up to this week. But there were also, these moments of not knowing how to manage a team of staff. At 21, most of my staff were older than me, not really wanting to listen to me. I was probably a little too authoritative when I started thinking that's what a boss should be or should do or should act, should say. So I learned along the way what works and what doesn't work in people management and growth as a company and whatnot. But, obviously I matured with the business and I, owned and ran that for 17 years in the end. So by the time I got into that, well into that second decade, I was running a very effective company. I was really happy with my growth, the company growth, and everything like that. And we were winning awards. We won the 2014 Small Business Rural Achiever of the Year Award for Western Australia. I won the Chamber
Wow.
of Commerce and Industry Awards, Best Team of 21 Staff and Above. There were things that I were really proud of. We used to fundraise and earn several hundreds of thousands of dollars for sick children in our area that were, flying off to the Perth Children's Hospital, because we were 600 kilometres away from anything. We're in the
Mm,
middle of this kind of regional, it was a regional town of 30,000. It was a small city, but 30,000 people. So it's very, very tiny. But it
mm,
was really fantastic to be a big, successful fish in a little pond. And everything was going really well until I added children to the mix. And as most parents will know listening, or and mums specifically, if you're a parent, you say before you have children that that's okay. The children will just come along with my life and it'll all just fit in, and that's just the way it'll go. And you can be a flexible, free spirited parent all you like, but you really can't take children to work 12 hours a day, or things like that. Babies have routines and sleep patterns, and you have things that you want to bring in. And yeah, I had children that dramatically altered my ability to be able to give everything I needed to the business. So I started to struggle in areas. I started to, realize that having children plus having a company plus having staffing issues in a regional town, where in the past, when it was just me and the receptionist would call in sick, I could just go down and do it. But when you've got a baby on the hip, it's not quite a good look for you to have the baby in the pram behind the counter and trying to be professional and answer the phone and have a crying baby and all of the things. So things, turned a little bit harder, well, a lot harder really, when I had children. And I remember having my first son, and he was, I think, 4 at the time, and everyone was saying, "When will you have another child?" And I was like, "Not while I'm running a company." And then I had another child, you know, because I was such
mm,
a glutton for punishment. So I had the second child, and then I was drowning in the company. And he was born in 2000 and very late 2017. I'm trying to make sure I get my dates right here. And then very late 2000 and what am I thinking? I think 2019. I'm getting my dates around wrong. And then the following year, he actually got unwell. He got unwell. And
mm,
that was one of the hardest things, was being a business owner in a small town. We were 600 kilometers from the nearest hospital. So when the
okay.
nearest major hospital that could have the resources and things that we needed. So I started to really struggle, because I was quite proficient in sales and marketing in my gym business. But then I would go be staying at the hospital for periods of time, and my
Mm,
gym business would go downhill. So then what happened was I would be going back and forth, and I was just under resourced. I was overcommitted. I had, a sick child, I had financial struggles. And then along came COVID-19.
mm,
Yeah, so it is
yeah.
2017. I'm getting my dates around. So along came 2019, and COVID started to enter the world, and things started to look really hairy. All of a sudden, we were moving into this really foreign, kind of uncertain time. And I had just stumbled across online business. So I was already kind of in this mindset of, okay, I've got small children. I don't have the time resources that I used to have. So I needed to look for ways that I could work smarter, not harder. I started to look online, and I stumbled across the same business that, you and I do.
Mm,
And that was exciting and new. And I was loving learning that on the side. But then as my youngest son was unwell and COVID came in, it started shifting the paradigm for what my traditional business looked like. In Western Australia, we were, there are many places around the world that I believe were hit quite hard with rules, but we were very, very strict. Even out of all of Australia, Western Australia was we were completely locked down and isolated from the rest of the country. You couldn't get your hair done. If you were not vaccinated, you couldn't buy alcohol. There were just ridiculous rules. You were allowed to the supermarket for food, but if it was a supermarket that sold alcohol, you weren't allowed to buy the alcohol, even though you were in the supermarket buying food. So you could go to a drive-through store to buy a burger, but you couldn't go through a drive-through liquor store to buy a bottle of wine. Like, it was just real. ridiculous
Mm.
rules and mandates, and everything was closed down and everything was locked down. And there was this period of time where they said all gyms must be closed for 3 months. And I was in the gym business, and I was, oh, Monica. And I was like, what do you mean all gym businesses must be closed for 3 months? And they said all gyms would be closed for 3 months.
And no
And
compensation, nothing, or just
well, you know what?
no?
There was compensation. They had something called job. I think it was called Job Keeper, and it was a government subsidy that you could apply for, from the taxation department, which would help you pay a very minimum wage to your staff to keep them. But they would only pay it to you if you had first paid 3 fortnights, which in Australia is 6 weeks. So 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and 2 weeks. Pay that to your staff, and then you could apply to rebate and give you the money back for that 6 weeks. But
Mm-hmm.
we were a business that was very week in, week out cash flow. Money comes in, goes out to bills. Money comes in, goes out to bills. So there was this period of time where I couldn't afford to pay my staff because there was no money coming in. There was still the bills. I still had to pay the rent. Our rent at the gym was extraordinarily high. It was $14,000 a month,
Oh
which
my
in
God.
Australian dollars is probably still 10,000 US dollars a month, right, in rent. And they didn't turn that off. The owners weren't lenient, but I said, well, we've got no income coming in. And at the same time, as a business owner, all of my costs and personal expenses, like my home, my car, my phone, my food, etc., all came from the gym as well. So it was this time where we were mandated closed for 3 months. I eventually got a bank loan to be able to pay the staff, to be able to get the rebate, to be able to pay people back. But by then, I'd already lost a lot of my team. So a lot of this, in the fitness industry, you can't just hire staff. They have to have qualifications. They have to have certificates in fitness or university degrees to be able to work with people's bodies. You can't just hire anyone and say, go train somebody in Australia. It has to be of a high level. And so I'd already lost a lot of the senior qualification staff that I had. I was closed for 3 months, trying to pay everyone back. And then when I reopened, I had skeleton staff that were underqualified. And we had gone down. So from member numbers in the fitness industry, you have to sell memberships that are paying reoccurring weekly direct debits. And we went down from being at our top amount of numbers was around 2000. It was like 1900 and I think 21 or 71 from memory. And then it dropped overnight. Like when the gyms closed for 3 months, so many people canceled their gym membership that we were down to 500
Oh no.
reoccurring members. So all of a sudden, 500 people paying $20 a week for a year is very different income to 1,900 people paying $20 a week for a year. So all of a sudden, the rents weren't affordable, equipment repayments weren't affordable. Having senior qualified staff, I used to have 40 to 50 staff at any one time. We were now operating on 12 with me, with the babies on the hip and the different things. And it was impossible. And this was in the first round of government mandates and things that were happening by our state and the premier here.
Mm.
And then we started to hear wind of, there was that temporary thing where vaccinated or unvaccinated could or couldn't do certain things. But
Mm.
then we got to the next stage where they were going to mandate that people couldn't enter gyms either without vaccinations. So before it was, anyone could go anywhere, but there was just spatial 2 meters squared, one person here, put the dots, stand over there. And then it became like if you weren't vaccinated, you wouldn't be able to go in at all. So I started to go, well, I'm not about that. Like my whole life has been around people's bodies, their own choice and autonomy,
Mm.
and people really being able to choose what they deem as healthy or not. And for you, you may have chosen that for your health that vaccinating was the correct way, and for you, you may have chosen that for your health vaccinating was not the correct way. But I wasn't going to be standing at the front doors of my business and dictating that you had to be vaccinated to walk in. And my own personal beliefs was that it wasn't the right thing to do. So I was like, well, how do I run a company if I'm not allowed to be in it?
Exactly.
Monica, it
You're
was
not allowed to
terrible.
walk into your own gym.
I know. So that was the moment. I think, we were mandated closed for 3 months. Then we reopened up and struggled for 12. And it was around, I think, June 2021. that I had to send out that dreaded email to members that said in 14 days we'll be closing. And I had a business that pre-COVID, I would have probably been able to sell for $750,000 cash in hand, no debt, to
Mm.
then about a year and a half later, walking with a big tax debt and no ability to sell. And I was like, this is wild. So, thankfully, in hindsight, I had found this online business and I had started doing it as the side hustle, like it was the thing that I was doing on the side that, if it gets me there, great. But all
Mm.
of a sudden, I was like, well, I best
Ah.
start paying this thing a lot more attention.
That became the main thing. Yeah, yeah,
It did.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's amazing that you had built that up on the side. Like I feel the same. Like being a teacher, and I've heard so many different stories of doctors, nurses, everyone that were put in that position where they actually didn't want to go against their values and they made the right choice. I mean, this was such a brave choice of you to just stand up for your values and not go against that
Mm.
because I think so many people were just pressured because of their job circumstances to go along with things that just wasn't right for them, like you said. Like, um,
Oh, it was impossible. It was impossible for
yeah.
people. They would have had to have a medical experiment at the time, if you will, to choose to keep their job, where you couldn't even have the choice to quit. Let's say you decide to quit your job and get another job. No one was hiring. No one was hiring at that time because everyone was experiencing lockdowns and having to trim back the fat and really let go of people. So you didn't even have the choice to say, well, I won't go with that employer, I'll go with that one, because
Mm,
most of them were having the same requirements in place and had no availability for staff. I think one of the most incredible, like, I guess, kind of twists and turns, and I know you've also got a very supportive relationship and some parenting situation, as do I, thankfully. But I remember being in the middle of 2021 and I had this collapsing traditional business and I had this semi thriving online business, and I said to my partner, I think I have to close this and I have to go all in on the online business. And he's like, yep. And I said, but what if I can't make the online business work enough? Like, I know I'm already seeing success. I had already seen success. Like, it was, the evidence was there. But I was like, but what if, in this new environment and world that we were living in, what if it doesn't go so well? And he just sort of said, like, I've got your back. Like, you close it, and whatever the money will be is I will figure it out and I will take that from my salary. And he's an arborist, does trees and tree surgeon and all the things. And he said, I'll take that from my salary and whatever we do, we'll just make it work. And I was like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. And that was middle of 2021 because my industry was being mandated. And then it got to January 2022 and his industry got
oh,
mandated,
really? Oh my
which you
God.
wouldn't think. He's like in
How
a
was
tree
he
with a chainsaw.
outside, right?
Oh my, like I said, and he even worked for, they were contracted to state government. So they were a contractor company doing all of the power lines around the town, getting the trees away from the power lines. And local government was exempt. So from vaccinating, of course, the government was exempt from vaccinating, right? Wild, wild. But he all of a sudden hit January. So we'd lost our gym income and my salary from the gym in the June, July, the prior year. We got to January and he said, I'm being mandated. And that was our like one, I guess, stable income. And I said, quit. And you know what? He wasn't even from Australia. He's not even he lost by choosing to resign in that January. He actually lost his employer contract. He was on a sponsorship visa. He's English. He's on a sponsorship visa. So he was on one of these 4-year employment thing. I can't remember where it was. And he was, it hadn't been, he's not an Australian citizen yet. It got to I think year 6. He was just shy of getting his long service leave. And I said, quit. And he's like, now what? And I said, well, I'll support us.
Oh.
So 6 months later, I got to, say the same thing. And I think that just shows the power of online business during that time and onward. I
Mm,
think this COVID time and this closing down of traditional business and all of these mandates really shifted the landscape for digital business. Because
mm,
I mean, I after the gym closed, there was 1 to 2 months. Really, I declared sloth month, and I was drinking red wine and eating nachos and watching reruns of Friends on the couch, and a terrible, lazy time that I was doing. And then I was like, okay, right, we get into it. And then I just went online, and what I noticed was that it just boomed. Like people were looking for solutions, people were looking for alternatives, people were looking for secondary incomes, and it just started to take off. So then when it came to him
Mm.
having to make that choice for his body and for his citizenship and everything, I said quit. And then he wasn't actually allowed to work for 2 years after that. They gave him a bridging visa with no working rights, and I had
Oh,
to support
really?
our family for 2 years. And he's a strapping strong man. Like, he felt very useless for a period of
Mm.
time, the poor guy. But we also had young children, so it was extremely helpful. It was a weird role reversal that he was raising kindergarten kids and I was by the computer all day.
I know that feeling.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
But it is a transition for the men, but like it's been the same for my husband, like 3 years completely home with the kids, but then it's been so valuable for a family. I guess that's what you felt as well, just being with your children all that
I mean,
time.
that connection, like one of his favorite days, because at this time, my youngest, sorry, my eldest, I'm not sure, maybe he was in like year two or something, grade two in primary school. And the little one was in, like, we call it kindergarten. And I think it's the same for yourself.
Mhm.
But in the
Yeah.
in the first year, it's like 2.5 days. So all day Monday, all day Tuesday, half day Wednesday. That's it. And I remember half day Wednesday was like, and where did they go? They would go to coffee club and they would have baby chinos and cupcakes. And it was like, and I would always see it on his Facebook popping up, cupcake date. And I'm like, what dads at 12 noon on a Wednesday are posting baby chinos and cupcake dates and, and are getting away with that? Like, it was so beautiful.
Oh,
While it lasted, it was so beautiful. My guy has gone back to work, not because we need it, but because, I mean, men love to provide, right? They love to be that provider, and they don't like to feel not of use. So his job is very physical. It's very trees. It's, lifting logs and chipping wood and, doing all the manly things. So he loves to do that. But that period of time, I would look back and go, this was fun. Like, this was so nice to be 3 o'clock in the afternoon and we all pick up the kids and we go to the park rather than dad coming home after dark and things like that. It was just my favorite time.
mm. Yeah, amazing. And then that you could, have that second option when everything was just crumbling down. And we had our transport business, completely go down in COVID as well. So I know exactly what it was like going from and not getting any government subsidies, anything like that. So, but it was actually a blessing because my husband dared to step into, like, leave that and just be with the family. So it was in a way a blessing as well. And but I'm
Yeah.
thinking about, because we're still in a situation like a recession where people, I think a lot of people start looking at other options, and but you still hear that this kind of fear mentality where you're, no, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I just have to survive, rather than looking at other options that can keep you afloat. Like, what would you say to those people? Because I think it's quite a lot of
Yeah.
that right now, because we were also thinking before this, like, let's just run faster, let's do more things, let's have, rather than what you said, like thinking smarter and looking for an alternative that gives you more space.
I yeah, I think, and I work with now, you and I have been doing the business, I think, for a similar period of time, and probably
Mm.
at around roughly around the same level in the business, which has been really great to sort of grow
Yeah,
alongside you and see
exactly.
that. And you're watching me boom in Australia and you're booming in the Sweden, and it's just wonderful. But I think what is inherently the same worldwide is, whatever the thing that you're dealing with is, it actually doesn't just go away. So I do speak to a lot of people and they're like, yeah, but I've got little kids right now and I'm so busy. And I'm like, yeah, but those kids really aren't going anywhere. Like, are you waiting? What are you waiting for? Because, they're going to be babies for a while, then they're going to be toddlers for a while, then they're going to be small children for a while, then they're going to be in school for a while, then you're going to be dealing with preteens and teenagers and hormones and adolescents. And like, are you going to really wait 25 years to get in the clear? Maybe, who knows? Because with the rent crisis and what everything's going on, they probably live with you for life now. Like, are you really waiting until your kids are old enough to get your time to get started? Or do you say, well, I'll apply myself and burn the candle a little bit now to actually be in like 1 to 2, 3 years' time, actually having more time with my children? And people say, like, I'm waiting for more money, I'm waiting for more money. And I'm like, look, but your job, let's say it's 50,000, 60, I don't know, 70,000, whatever your job is, unless you dramatically see your income doubling next year, is your employer giving you a pay rise from 70,000 to 140,000? No, then nothing's going to shift next year. And your kids are still going to be there next year. And people go, oh, but I need to spend quality time with my husband in the evenings. I can't be doing work, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, your husband's not going anywhere either. Like, this stuff that we think will shift inherently is never going to, unless you shift something first. So look, I get it, and I don't want to, um, you know, act like a fool by saying that these problems don't exist for people. Like, they're so valid, and whatever is in the way for you is so valid. But there is another way. Like, when I started doing this online business with our academy and our high ticket product, I I was drowning in workload. Like, I was drowning in workload. My gym business opened at 4 in the morning and was open till 11 o'clock at night. So if there was a staff shortage, that was me. And if, like, let's say my partner could have the baby, but he started work at 6 or 7, that baby was being dropped to me at the gym at 6 or 7. And then I'm waiting for the childcare at the gym to open at 9. So I've got a baby for 3 hours on that. Like, it was ridiculous, right? Some days was so unmanageable and unworkable. Now, obviously, I started to employ staff that were more reliable and things like this. So the fact of the matter is, most days I could go to work at 9, children in some sort of form of childcare, which sucked. I didn't want to put my children in childcare, but rock in a hard place, right? I had no family nearby. I was running a company. My children had to go into daycare, and I just chose a daycare nearby, and I drove up there every 2 hours to breastfeed. That's fine. Like, you can still have your level of freedom and negotiation on things. So I did that. I would put my children in. I would commit to working all day till 5 o'clock, pick up those kids from school and daycare, take them home, after school activities and dinner and bath and bedtime and making lunches for tomorrow, doing the laundry, housework, and then it would get to like 8:30 at night. And then I would sit down and I go, right, okay, so I've got two options now. So I would always still pour the glass of red, have my dinner, because I don't want to eat when the kids were eating. I was like, no, I want to enjoy and eat it slow and stress free. So have my dinner, have my glass of red, and I would put the computer on and I would log into the academy and I would binge watch training videos. So instead of watching Netflix reruns of something, training videos. And I was like, okay, cool. So that time of night between sort of 8:30 and 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, that was where I worked on my online business. Were there other people in the industry that were working all day long, 9 to 5 on the business, and maybe they live at home with mom, or they're rich and they've got their husband supporting them? Sure. But I was more driven than they were. I'm way more committed because I had no time and there was no margin for error. There was just really this, I was like, I have to do this here, and there's nobody else coming. And these kids are going to be here, and the gym is going to be here, and my husband's going to be here when I'm married, but let's just call it that anyway, right? And I was like, I just have to do what I can do with the resources that I have. And for me, that was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday between 8 and 10 at night, because Wednesday I left as date night, right? You still give your relationship, you pay homage to things, you give your relationship the time it needs. And on Wednesday night, the date night with little kids, it was like a pizza at home and a movie at home, but that was the time that he got his quality time, because that's his love language. I didn't need it, but I was like, okay, I'll give you Wednesday nights. Friday nights was fish and chip night in Australia with the kids, and we do fun stuff together. And then I knew that on a half day Saturday or a half day Sunday, I could dive in and my partner would be home helping with the kids as well. So I just think that if you've got things in the way, it's valid, and still take action, because in 5 years' time, you'll be complaining of the same thing and the same circumstances will still be there. And
Mm.
your salary didn't double, so you won't have more time or more freedom or more anything. It will
Mm.
just be as it is.
Mm. Yeah, I think we're very similar. I was right in that situation as well. We had a transport company. I was working as a teacher. I had three kids at home, two small kids, one bigger. Like people would say you have no time, like, and I didn't have time. And it was the exact same time actually, like 8 o'clock, like 2 hours every night. Because, when you have that driving force that I need to get out of this. I need another solution. Then you do what it takes. It's like, then there's no more complaining, right? Then it's just like,
Yep.
yeah, I will do this like for my kids, for our future. And then like after 1 year, I could quit my job. After 2 years, the transport industry just went crashed down. And then we were all
Mm.
together as a family. We had to be supported on this and we could be supported on this, which was amazing. I mean, I wouldn't dream of not doing this. Looking back,
100%.
it's like you say, just if you feel the urge, if you feel like you want to do this, you find a way. Like you just do it. Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
Amazing, amazing story. And you talked a little bit about it, but what is your experience with the business? Like what has it done for you in your life regarding like sovereignty, freedom, and also what have been the ups and the downs in this business that we're in for you? Like what's been your journey there?
Well, it's a lot over 6 years, right? But I mean, I think, I mean, what it's made available for me is uh, everything has shifted. Like I no longer live in that same town. So I've moved. We closed down that company. We changed the way that we earn. We changed the way that our family looks. We now live like I have 45 minutes drive to my mum, to my sister, to relatives in all angles. And we just live in this beautiful forest. Like if I show you my view there, it's just
Oh, beautiful.
straight out into the forest. There are no
Oh,
neighbors,
wow.
and it's just beautiful trees and surrounds. And we're now in a location where we have all this time with our kids, but we have places that we can go and things that we can do as well. We didn't decide to change our circumstances and stay where we were. We decided to reinvent the whole life because we now had choice, right? I think
Mm.
what what people think they will want when they have the money won't be what they actually will want, because before I had the money and I started the online business and I was struggling a little bit, I loved my gym. Like I loved my gym without a shadow of doubt, like beyond anything. I said to people, don't worry, if I get really rich doing this online business, I'm not closing the gym down. I'll be here forever. Like I love you guys. I love this business so much. I'll just do it forever. I'll do it for free. I'll do it for charity. I had this real sense of like, this is my purpose in life. And then, you know, I started to get to this point, this tipping point. Remember, I said the traditional business was going down and the online business
Mm.
was going up. And there was this point where the online business was starting to pay the gym business bills. And I was like, I'm not so keen on this now. I was like starting to see all this personal money coming in. And I was like, oh, I would really rather be keeping that. And so all of a sudden, moving forward, we're now at this part of my life where I have money, or now I have choice. So now I go, money, do I want to run a gym for free? No, thank you. No chance in hell will I be doing that. And I still want to support and encourage people that want to have great, healthy lives and lose weight and all the things. I'll be your biggest cheerleader on the side. I'm no longer in the arena with you. Like that's your journey and I'm off to the side. So, it has shifted everything from us, like to the point, like to be able to say, I don't ever go to work. I will never be employable. You cannot offer me a job, Maneka. I know you're laughing in
Yeah,
recognition
I
because
feel you. I'm just the same.
you can't, like, when I say I'm unemployable, not because I'm terrible, but because you couldn't offer me something good enough. for me to take it. I remember a guy saying, like, when the gym had closed down, he's like, you would be really good at sales. Maybe you could come and work in mining equipment sales. And the base salary would be like, I think the base salary would be like 150,000 plus commissions. You'd be on target earnings for 200,000 a year. And I was like, no, thank you. I was like, I've had a taste of freedom life now. And I was like, no, thank you. Like, I know I can make that money on my own. I know I can do it with very, well, less time than what I would commit to that. I know I can do it at home in my pajamas with kids. Like, I only got to get dressed up if I've got to turn the Zoom camera on, top half. And so
Hmm.
it's just completely offered us that freedom. My partner still loves going to do his arborist tree work, because that has him pulling in a great income. So now we get to be working on things rather than working to pay the bills. We're now working on housing deposits, home deposits. So we're now like going, okay, well, rather than get a car loan, shall we just save up and buy that in cash? Like, we now have so much freedom of choice of how we want to be with our money. And I think that's, this biggest kind of conversation is that's that level of sort of freedom that it's granted us. And has it all been smooth sailing? No, of course not. But has it been worth it? Yes. Right. Like, we go through different levels in this business where, you're having to learn a new skill set. But that's just because I used to work in fitness industry, boot camps, bodies. Now I work in online marketing, sales, marketing, content creation. It was new to me. It felt really uncomfortable. I applied the learnings and the trainings and the lessons. I got better. I started making sales. And then, you have a whole team of people, and having a team of people, like I have 400 affiliates globally. You have, you would be roughly around the same. I know that you and I are in the top 2% globally.
Hmm.
And, new levels, new doubles, right? If you have no team, you're working on your skill. If all of a sudden you've got a team of affiliates, you're working on how you talk with people or how you coach and support others. But we
Hmm.
have, like, really access to so much, I would say, automation that you don't actually have to be so hands-on. Like, some people are super hands-on. I like it. I was running gyms and teams of people before I did this business. So of course I run my online business the same way.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
if you're someone that's really quite off to the side, autonomous, you might choose to remain that way with your online business and do things behind the scenes and do things a little bit different. All I know is that the opportunities available for people now in online marketing, worlds ahead of where they were when we started in 2018, 2019.
Definitely. Yeah, I remember. Were you in Gas as well, like the first platform?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we had one platform, and even though like I learned so much there and it was really, really great, I think today, like there are so many different platforms that the development has just been wild. Like all the resources. I mean, some people come into my team and they're like overwhelmed with, my God, it's so many resources. Where do I start? It's more like that
Mm.
part. And but also the success rates, like how you see people doing what I did maybe in 1 year in like a couple of months or half a year, like when they really just take it in, implement it, and just run with it. So it's
Yeah, it's so much more socially acceptable too now. Whereas when
yeah.
we were starting, I think there was this kind of consensus that everything online was really hard and there weren't a lot of resources and it was really scammy. Like, it must be a scam, must be a scam, must be a scam. And it's just now everyone's got a side hustle, everyone's got a digital marketing business, everyone's got a secondary income stream. Oh, you do affiliate marketing? Oh, I've heard of that. Oh, you do affiliate marketing? Oh, my friend does that. It's so socially acceptable and the market awareness is there that I
Mm,
just find presenting the offer to people so much easier.
yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
back in 2018, when I was presenting the offer, people were like, yeah, but, or my uncle says this, or I've never
Mm,
heard of that, so that doesn't sound right. But we were really just the pioneers of something, like, and even back in 2018, I didn't feel like I was a pioneer for it. I still felt like I was kind of late to the party. But these days there is so much opportunity. And like you said, like
mm,
different styles of marketing, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, emails, faceless marketing, ads, meta, it's everywhere. And you really have choice.
mm,
And when you dial in on one thing and follow the training, you can produce results
mm,
with less resistance faster.
mm. Yeah. And what would you say to people? Because I think in Europe we've not broken through the, oh, it's a scam, it's a pyramid scheme. It's like I think you're
Oh,
further ahead in
are we
Australia.
still there?
We're
Are we
still
still
there.
there?
But it's
Okay.
great to hear because I feel though, because we've been talking about the water a lot, like really leading with
Mm,
that and sharing, and that awareness is rising like beautifully. And we're seeing this in Scandinavia, at least, like this huge boom around the water awareness, which I'm so thankful about because people used to say, oh, we have the best water. It's like, oh, we have such good water in Scandinavia. And then you look at it and it's like, yeah, so many toxins, so many chemicals, all of that. But the other part is yeah, still kind of resistance, like where I see,
mm,
like in the US, in Australia, it's so much more flowering, and people have kind of understood, oh my God, this is where it's going. This is where things are heading. So what would you say to those like new people that are on the fence, like, oh, do I trust this? I listened to my uncle, he says it's a scam.
mm. I would say be someone who's willing to go first then, because what I know, like globally, what starts to happen is, like you said, whatever's shifting in the US shifted before it shifted in Australia. It's like fashion. It's like fashion or music. You're like, oh, we listened to them 2 years ago. They're just coming to Australia now. We're like, oh, okay, Sweden next year. It must be like, it's wait a while and it's going to come to you. So I would say if I'm like I'm not experiencing any level of resistance, pyramid, scam, scheme, anything like that. But back in 2018, I really was. But also, I think when we start to speak about something, we have a certain level of hesitancy because we don't quite know what we're sharing about yet. We have our own little bits of doubts. We share about something with a bit of hesitance, makes other people hesitant. But when you start to build up your own confidence in the business and you're just on the forward foot, you're sharing about it, people see, oh wow, she believes in what she's doing. She knows what she's doing. She's making results over there. Oh, cool. I want to follow her. I want to go with her. I want to be a part of that too. So people will follow people who know where they're going, right? And people will not follow people who don't know where they're going. So everything you do, I say, do it fully. And if you're in Sweden and there's still this level of resistance and it's not booming yet, it's coming because it already went to the US and it's booming. It's already in Australia and it's booming and everywhere else. Then go first because you're going to be ahead of the boom. And when it does start to become this kind of second nature thing, you're like, yeah, I've been in it for years. Like I remember last year when digital marketing started becoming really popular on Instagram. And then people would say to me, oh, are you doing this thing too? And I was like, not too. I've been doing it for 6 years. They're doing it too. Like I was like, not me too. Like I was already there. And I felt really proud to be like, oh no, I went first, like
Yeah. The ones that get it first. I love that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
do that.
amazing. And would love to hear also, because I kind of usually round up with that, like what is your vision moving forward? Like what is your big dream of looking maybe 5 years ahead or like the years to come?
Do you know, I feel like I'm not the best person for this, but I'll try. And the reason I feel this, and this may be helpful for some people listening, I never dreamed ahead. And I never dreamed ahead because when I was owning and running my online business, I felt like, not my online business, my traditional business, apologies. I felt like I had built this most beautiful business that I loved so much, but I was very trapped in it. So I say I was trapped in a beautiful prison of my
Mm,
own
mm,
creation. And there was never any forward thinking, where do I see myself in 5 years, etc. Because I never felt that I could get out of the situation that I was in. So my overwhelming existence and feeling was like, this is like the hands that I'm dealt, like the cards that I'm
yeah.
dealt. This is my
Mm,
hand. I'm here. This is what my day looks like. And it was very Groundhog Day. And I couldn't see that I could ever shift my income because if my bank balance went ahead and I was showing my mum my bank balance, next minute we'd have an earthquake and the pool was underinsured and I had to take $100,000 of all of my money and put it back into this fixing of a pool, or there was always like the next problem. There was always any money I made straight back in. And so I always felt like even if I do get money in, I was never going to be able to keep it. You know, this was real money story that I created was, well, I better spend it because I can't hold on to it anyway. You know, so I had this existence of that I can't get ahead in life and it's kind of pointless and I better just do the best with what I can. So there
Mm,
was never this forward thinking of 5 years. And so, you know, obviously to be able to close that business after 17 years was very difficult. And then I was very lost, you know, from a like I knew that in my day to day I felt fulfilled and purposeful in working with my team, learning affiliate marketing, etc. But I didn't feel like I had a future vision or a future purpose. And all I just kept focusing on was that next level in our business. So in the business that we do online, there are different like levels of pay, or different levels of affiliate. You can move up to the next commissionable rank and you would get this next amount of money. And so I think that's kind of where I'm at and what feels good for me about this business is that I do have goals that I can reach and achieve, but they are smaller in bite chunks in between. And that feels good for me because I can't see forward 5 years. And
mm,
I honestly believe a lot of people can't. Like this
yeah,
whole, you know,
yeah.
if you've ever been to an interview, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I think we all just make up some crap to sound good, you know, but I have no idea, but it feels really fun and it feels really free where I am. And I know that my next goal is to hit this level called 6A2 2 and be on stage getting awarded in San Diego
Yeah.
alongside you, Maneka.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there. We're both gonna be there.
That's it.
But it's
So
amazing.
that's it.
Yeah, it's
Smaller,
amazing to see
smaller
us
goals
like similar
achievable.
stories and in different parts of the world, just, trotting along. And just like you say, for me, it's also like the dash three where you earn the pension. Like I'm just like laser focused on, you know,
Oh, the
that's where I'm
legacy. Yeah.
going
Yeah.
because then you are set up and your kids are set up like for
Yeah, so that's the next
generation.
year. So I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, dash two for San Diego, and then the legacy
exactly.
income. I would hope within 1 to 2 years after that. So I feel
Mm,
like you and I are probably on a similar timeline and trajectory,
mm.
and that's where we would get 5,000 USD per month for life at a minimum, not even counting our commissions.
Yeah,
And
this is the
and for
base.
me,
Mm,
that was unheard of. Like I can't, you know, traditional business owner, I have to work for that. So that is the goal. But I think the great news about this business is a lot of people can't see that far ahead. So I'm always just like, what is the next goal? Okay, what is the time frame to get there? Okay, I'm going to do that. And then I get there and I get on stage and I get excited, just like Japan back in, you know, June. And then it's like, okay, and then the next one, and then the next one.
mm,
And
mm.
that feels good and it gets to be all of your own doing, and you
Yeah.
get to follow the system and the structure and the training that we already have set up.
Mm. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And just like you said, I was also when I started, I just took these 2 hours and basically did three things. Like I watched the trainings, I implemented straight away. Like I put the little, what I say, auntie on the shoulder, like away, like, no, you can't do this. No, 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 you don't know this yet. It's like, okay, I've watched the training. Let's implement it. Like step one, step two, and then just learn to communicate and learn to like reach out and reach more people. That's like basically the three things I did, like
Mm.
these 2 hours that I had every day. And God, like you said, I'm also unemployable. We'll never we'll never go back. It's just something that
If
happened.
you're listening, we are unemployable. You can't have us.
Oh God. But Willow, anything you want to round up with? This was such a beautiful story. So great to hear, what you've been going through and you're being so brave that taking those brave steps and then really being able to live this beautiful life with your family is just such a blessing to hear. Mm.
I would just say, you know, on the other side of that fear that people have, it truly is your version of freedom. You know, and so I would just recommend you go all in for however all in looks for you, you know, so take the leap, jump on in, do the thing, and move through the fear because I couldn't see 6 months ahead. And now I don't know what to do with the next 6 months. They're free. And I'm like, oh, I really get to live this created life now. I get to figure out what I want to do with my time rather than having that dictated to me. So
Mm,
I just think move through that fear, find your freedom and go for it because one day you're going to be old and lying in a bed somewhere feeling like I wish that I had just done differently. So nothing changes, nothing changes.
mm. Thank you, Willow.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And see you in San Diego on the stage.
Catch you there, Monica.
Catch you there. Thank you very much. Bye bye.